Okay, now I'm ready for a question.
Oh boy.
Okay, how many cities from Morrowind already exist? And is Rivik, we know, is still under construction.
Yep.
But which part of it is already finished? And what about Caldera?
Okay, so I'll touch on Vivek City first. So in Vivek City, Vivek's temple, his main temple, is completed. And I think it's 4 cantons as well. And then the remaining cantons are still in various stages of being put together. And one of them, all it's been done is it's been dredged. So a section has been dredged out, that's it.
Oh, okay.
So you get to kind of see it, you know, in its initial formation stages.
Okay.
As for other cities, I know Eldrune is kind of this, you know,
Yeah, this giant mud
giant mud crab. And then outside of that, there's like all these bug huts and all the other stuff. So in our timeline, those bug huts aren't there yet. It's more of an Ashlander camp.
Oh.
And, you know, you can actually go inside of Scar, I think his name is. Or was the name of the mud crab, right? So you can go inside there. There's actually a quest line that takes you kind of through that area. And then, yeah, we have Balmora and Saint Denis and those places.
And Caldera? Because this is some kind of imperial city. And that's my next question.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, because the next question would be why there's imperial architecture on Warnfeld. Because on the timeline, the Imperials wasn't there.
Well, I do know that at some point they tried to colonize Morrowind. I don't know off the top of my head where that was in the timeline.
Okay.
But I do know that they did try to colonize it, and it failed horribly.
So Saint Denis is some sign of the colonization, because it's Saint Denis is also an imperial city, as far as I know, or some buildings.
I mean, I think there's some of that architecture in there, but yeah.
Okay.
So I have another question for the battlegrounds.
Okay.
You told us that we can't hide in a battleground. Do you mean we can't stealth, or
No,
do
you
mean no line of sight?
So what we tried to do with our battlegrounds is make it so that it's really easy to find other players to fight with. You know, it's you jump in, you play, you can, within 5 or 10 seconds of joining the battleground and jumping down into the fight, there's somebody to fight, somebody to go after. You know kind of where to go. We do have lots of line of sight blockers. In the one map that you guys saw today, which was more of the quarry, which was more kind of wide open, most of the line of sight blockers are on the outer edges of the map, and the interior is all wide open. Our other maps, there's more trees and pillars and things like that to kind of line of sight. And then in the Dwemer map, there's this giant structure in the middle that you can kind of traverse all the way up, and there's all kinds of line of sight blockers.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Yep.
Okay, my next question is again a lore question.
Another lore one.
Yeah. So, how does the ban of slavery affect the plantation of the Ascadia Islands, for example? Or can you still buy slaves, free them, or help the Twin Lamps, even if slavery is banned?
So that's an interesting question. So slavery was banned in the Ebonheart Pact, but the people in Morrowind didn't actually join the Ebonheart Pact.
Okay.
So slavery is still a big part of the island. And that's actually one of the things that we touch on quite a bit in some of our stories, is how slaves are treated and whatnot in there.
Ah, great. I like that.
It's good. I answered a lore question.
I have another question for the warden abilities. So the one morph of the bear is that he is permanent. So when he dies, he
automatically gets resummoned.
Yes.
Yep.
And what's the second morph?
So the other one allows you to continue to generate ultimate and use an ability. So it's like, I think it's like, right now it's like 70 or 75 ultimate, and it allows them to do more damage. And then it turns into an execute when your target gets below into execute range.
Oh, very
so
good.
It's this really cool thing where, you know, you and your bear are fighting this target, and then he gets to a low health, and then bam, your bear executes him, which is really cool.
Oh, but you have to decide one more.
And you
other.
control it, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, the next question from Lauren. Are you going to see traces of the failed invasion of the Akaviri? Because Vivek stopped them with a great flute. So did we see any signs of this?
Nothing overt.
Mhm.
Like we didn't go in to try to tell that story or show that story. So no, there may be a couple of Easter eggs for other stories, but
Okay.
other bits, but not that one in
Okay.
particular. That I can think of off the top of my head.
Can we climb the Red Mountain?
Can you climb the Red Mountain? I'm sure there will be enterprising players that find ways to
Yes.
climb the Red Mountain.
Using
Yes.
some bugs.
Especially orcs.
We don't. One of the things we wanted to stay away from in our story that we were telling was we didn't want to set up or tell the story of Daggerthor at all.
Mhm.
So you don't actually go into the interior of the Red Mountain.
But can we try to jump there?
The mountain is there.
Okay.
It's there. You can kind of go up to it. I'm sure people will find a way to climb up on things. We didn't go out of our way to kind of block that. You know, in our timeline, the ghost
Okay.
fence isn't up, so you can actually get up to there. And there's a public dungeon that you go basically right up to the edge of the mountain and kind of explore the
Okay.
ruins around the mountain.
Nice.
And will the 36 lessons of Vivek present in any way? Because it's so large.
Maybe. You interact a lot with Vivek,
Mhm.
and he talks to you a lot. I mean, he's the warrior poet,
Yeah.
right? So you get a lot of interaction time with him. He doesn't try to teach or preach anything to you, but I mean, if there's a lore book or there are lore books scattered around, I'm sure you'll be able to find some bits and pieces of that.
Okay, great.
I like the fact that you implement a buff tracker for this update. Will you or do you plan to implement more like this? More add-on
So
things?
a lot of those kinds of things fall into what we call quality of life, where we kind of look at what players are talking about, where kind of their pain points are, and we try to solve some of those pain points.
Oh, okay.
So buff trackers is one of those things that we haven't really talked a lot about.
Mhm.
At least it's coming with 14, and it's one of those, yeah, it fits directly in, you know, scrolling combat text, you know, the combat numbers. That was another one of those things that just was a quality of life thing. So, but yeah, we're always looking for new things to add and ways that we can reduce the pain points.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, the question about the warden. Why did you choose a bear? Because why not a wolf or something like this?
So what we wanted with the bear was kind of this. Okay. It's a grizzly bear, right? And what we wanted, like, that is one of the most feared, kind of ferocious creatures, and so that's kind of what we were going for, is this buzzsaw, this super tanky but can also do a lot of damage. And that was what we wanted in the initial field.
Okay.
Well, the trial, how many bosses are there? 3, 4, like
Halls
the
of
other
fabrication. I think it's roughly equivalent. I think it's the same number of bosses as in Mob Warkosh. But one of the things that we did with the trial is we tried to focus more on the bosses and getting to the bosses rather than having a lot of base pop in there.
Ah, okay.
So I think it'll feel like there's more bosses because it's kind of almost feels like you're going boss, rather than boss, base pop, event, boss, right? So we want you to get into the action.
And were there any difficulties with the lore? Something that didn't fit with your ideas, or did the lore offer a foundation for you to build on?
I mean, for us, because we're 700 years in the past, we kind of have free reign, you know, as long as we don't try to tell the Daggerthor story. We're allowed to pretty much do anything. So I don't know that there was anything that was completely blocking us from what we wanted to tell. The main story, how Vivek loses his powers, or how he is losing his power, was one of the things that we had to make sure we did right.
Yep.
And it had to make sense because Vivek doesn't really lose his powers. Like there's in the lore, you know, you hear a lot or you read a lot about how the tribunal has to take regular treks to Red Mountain to kind of refresh their powers and things like that. But there's not really anything of they lose their powers or somebody tried to take their powers, and so we had to find a way to make that work. And I think we did. I mean, you'll be the judge when you play it, but I think it makes sense.
Because that would be great.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, and it kind of ties into kind of our overall story as well, which is another thing. You know, at the end of Orsinium, you know, we teased that a Daedric War was coming. And so we're furthering that story along with telling the story that we're telling. So.
Okay.
And do you plan a token system, for example, for the Undaunted, or I just don't get my shoulders?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think that's another one of those pain points that we have to look at. And, you know, RNG, you know, the random number generator stuff, that is definitely a pain point. You know, especially with, we have a ton of traits, in weights, right?
Yes.
In weapon types. Like, I think that's a pain point that we need to look at and figure out how to solve.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't know if it'll be a token system or when that'll happen, but yeah, I mean, I get the same thing. I run Maelstrom Arena all the time. And I still don't have my Sharpened Inferno staff. I have Sharpened Lightning staff, but I don't have my Sharpened Inferno staff yet, so.
Then thank you.
Oh,
for your
absolutely.
answers.
Okay, great.
Very much.
I got them all. Answered all the lore questions.
Oh, we've
Except
got
for
more
one.
questions, but I think we have to stop.
Sorry, yeah, it's valid.
He's saving me. I love it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of difficult questions.
I'm sure you do.
Thanks.